Professor Kolar, welcome to the oral history program of the Heritage Center.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this. We are looking forward to this interview. Yeah.
The Heritage Center, as we know, is of IIT Madras is unique to IIT Madras. There is no other IIT that we know has a Heritage Center, and it never had. Obviously, it was the first to have a Heritage Center as well. So let's just talk about the beginnings right away, since you were there at that place. How did it all start?
This happened during Professor Natarajan's directorship. As you know, he was the director at that time. This happened in '98, the invitation to start the Heritage Center. But if we go back a little, Professor Natarajan was in the mechanical engineering department, and he joined IIT Madras in 1970, approximately the time of my guru. I was a PhD scholar. So right from that time, I have had some interactions with him. First of all, as a very senior person interested in energy and combustion. Then I was very active in the Kannada Association. So we met, used to meet the families. Then he was dean. After when he was dean also, he used to, I was the assistant warden
Dean
of students.
Yes.
He used to call me a few times for something to be done. Then I became a cultural advisor in 1992. Professor Venkatrailu was the dean of students at that time, after Natarajan, Professor Natarajan. So during that 4 years of cultural advisorship, I was quite active. Certain things we did. Bharat Utsav I conducted, and we changed the name from Mardi Gras to Sarang. Why I am saying this, and also as far as research is concerned, although I didn't have direct collaboration, the topics were very common. Fluidized bed combustion was a new thing. And I had a project, and our professors had come from states. So he used to meet them, I used to arrange for meetings. And Professor Natarajan and Professor Rao, BVA Rao, who was the vibration. When I was new, they asked me to have a program on a workshop on energy and noise. So energy expert was Professor Natarajan, and noise expert Professor BVA Rao, because he was the vibrations man. Why I am saying this? Professor Natarajan and I was a student initially, so we had that kind of a relationship, but common area of, combustion, heat transfer, energy, he was known for it. So that contact was there. Then he saw me working as a cultural advisor. He had become head of the department at that time. And also because of the Kannada Sangha Association, there's some kind of a personal relationship in the functions. Why I am saying this? Overall, he had seen me as a student. He had seen me as a faculty member doing research. He had seen me as a cultural advisor. I am thinking that putting all this together, he had this in mind. He is the originator of the idea.
Between your student days and your faculty days, there was a gap when you went to the US.
Yes, I went in 1977 December and came back to India in 83, but joined in 84. So I went to University of Illinois at Chicago as a postdoc, but then 1 year only I was there. I was introduced to this new topic called fluidized bed heat transfer. Then for 4 years I was in New York University in NYU, in Long Island, where with the help of so many other people, we built a huge pressurized fluidized bed combustor facility, which was a big thing at that time for coal combustion. And that was one of the very few projects even in the United States at that time. Although it was a university, it was a huge pilot project. So I got a lot of experience there. I came back. Again, what is the connection? Professor Natarajan was a combustion person and a thermal person basically. He got his PhD in Canada and he had come.
The Waterloo University.
Waterloo University.
Yes.
He was a student of Professor Bustowski, if I remember, very famous. So there was, these things which are common. when I came back and joined IT4, I started working in fluidized bed heat transfer. I did the first workshop on this subject of fluidized bed and combustion heat transfer. He was very keen on that and he asked me for a proceedings of that. This was all in the mid 80s I'm talking about. So this common subject for research also was there, although we did not collaborate any specifically. So the point is that he knew my background and my interest also as a, I was in the cultural.
We could say he was closely following your
it happened.
Your interests and your progress. Yes.
Why again the background for this, this is important. So when he became the director, before that also, when he was head of the department, I had a big technology development mission project on energy from the government of India, where they said institutes and government and industry should come together. The government of India would give some money and industries have to give equal contribution in kind. I was the coordinator of the project for all IITs. So he knew some of the work that I had done at that time. And then I had also written the entire proposal for the wind energy center now that exists in Madras. It's called National Institute of Wind Energy. The entire proposal with the help of our Danish experts. I used to go to Delhi, sit there and write the proposal, and I had submitted, it was approved, and 98 it started. So I had these interests, in the energy area, and he was also. So once he asked me, after he became the director, Professor Dr. Kolar, sometimes he used to call me Ajit, I want you to do something about the alumni. This was definitely 1996, around 95 he became the director, 96 or even earlier. And almost immediately I said, sir, I may not be interested in such things. Alumni. I had an idea of alumni. IT Madras Alumni Association was there, but it was a separate entity. But I think he wanted alumni affairs to be a part of the institute, which has now become in a big way. So I politely said, sir, I am not interested. He said, okay. After some time, maybe at that time, Professor Anant had become the Dean of Academic Courses. He sent, Professor Anant asked me whether I should JEE chairman, entrance exam. That also I had politely refused. In fact, Professor Anand said, how are you refusing? You should go and explain to Professor Natarajan. I went with a lot of trepidation and I said, what? I said, sir, research, is a little bit suffering. I want to concentrate on my research. The moment I said it, okay, no problem, kindly go ahead. Again, why this background? Third time, we met in a private function in the campus. Suddenly he asked, Ajit, what are you doing for the institute? Some such, in that direction. He was a director at that time. Sir, just tell me, sir, what is it that you want me to do? And on the spot he said, oh, you are interested in, cultural affairs, no? Okay, that's all he said. But within, I think, a few days or a couple of weeks, I got a call. He said, you are interested in culture and history and all that. Why don't you set up a museum for IT Madras? That is how, I'm giving you this long background, you may think.
Yes.
Because what is the connection? Why did he ask me? So this was the background. I think this is my way.
He was very familiar with your interests. It appears.
He had seen me. And also we had, when he was a dean, we had some interaction. When he was cultural advisor also, I had asked him something, sir, what to do and things. Some input I had taken and he had exchanged some information. He was not the dean at that time. So I said, okay, because museum, that it's a kind of a, initially I thought it was a technical thing because I think IIT Kharagpur had a museum of science and technology in which a part of it was, even now I don't know, history of IIT Kharagpur. I came to know of that. So I thought maybe he wanted me to look at this part and what IIT has contributed for development of science and technology. But then I thought museum is something, it has its own connotation and all that. I had an idea of what he wanted me to do. Then I went, on the computer, I went through what other universities have any such museums. I was pleasantly surprised to find that many universities in United States, Europe, had heritage centers. They called them heritage centers. Museums they might have had, I don't know. But heritage center where they talked about the history of that institution. That then it fell into place for me. That is the right word. It's not a history, just a history part, Heritage has a different connotation. It is historical, but it has a much higher import and value, I think, heritage. Things that have come down to us from our past generations of value. So I used that term, heritage center. If you, as in this book you have very, very rightly, you have seen, on March 24th, 1998, he sent me a letter saying archival information system, professor in charge, and set up a museum with the following 2 or 3 objectives like collection, preservation and display of materials of heritage value, which includes photographs, documents, reports and all that, he said. And he said the 40th year is coming up by 1999. So I want this to be done by that time. And he said, please feel free to take cooperation from other people, but keep me informed through a monthly report. And I used to do it for quite some time. So when I accepted that, and in that letter of acceptance, I wrote IIT Madras Heritage Center.
There was a broader set of activities he had in mind, like this archival system where information would be on tap and so on.
Information about
IIT Madras. Yes.
Yes, this is actually when he said professor in charge of archival system. I remember Professor Pranesh from Ocean. He was acting registrar also sometime, and he was specifically given the task of creating that archives from the administration point of view.
Archival information system.
Yes. So that particular term also he used for me. Professor Pranesh, if I remember correctly, he is in Bangalore now. He was given that administration archives. This was a much broader, but within that archival information system, if you see the letter, he says set up a museum.
A museum too.
So you are very right. There was a much larger perspective here. He is a man of vision and ideas, brimming out of his brain, very enthusiastic. So I liked that and immediately I accepted it. And in the 24th April or 28th April 1998, he sent out a letter to everybody saying, Professor Kolar has taken on and he will set up, he has been charged with setting up a IIT Madras Heritage Center with these 3 or 4 tasks. So that was the background for the initiation of that. So it's extremely important that we give full credit to Professor R. Natarajan for the idea, for the concept. We can speculate, he was in Canada for a long time, he has a lot of contacts, he must have seen such things, and when he was here as a faculty member, dean, head of the department, it must have been working in his mind, and so he thought Kolar can do this. So these 2 things met, meshed, and I accepted it and we started. So 98 April, I think that was the time when officially activities for the IIT Madras Heritage Center started. Still at that time I didn't know really what I am going to do at that time.
Well, having taken charge, what were your tasks ahead? What were the major steps to be addressed?
The first thing I thought of was, of course, I have to get photographs from somewhere because that's the real heritage value, and I will know the history of IIT Madras and reports and documents what were available. That was at the back of my mind. I was thinking about it. So anyway, I formed a committee in April, I think itself. I think in this book you have given the list. So I wanted all the departments as much as possible to be included, so that they will give me some information about their own departmental history and some professor. But then I found, and also I had to have some relationship with them, the faculty. I cannot. So I made a faculty. I found that about 8 or 9 people from 7 departments I had taken. From mechanical, I think I had 2 people. But importantly for me, I wanted some senior people who could give me information from the past. So Professor Shankaran of electrical engineering, I requested him to be on the committee. Professor Maji of mathematics. There was another Professor Maji in physics, I think. And Shankar Narasimhan from chemical engineering. Kumar Swami from my department. Professor Mehta also from my department. We were very good friends, and he would be, later he became IT, director of IT Jalandhar. And I also wanted some younger faculty who will give, I wanted it to be a mix of senior. So Shankar Narasimhan was, and if you see that Nandita Dasgupta of electrical, she had participated as a cultural advisor. I started a Bharat Utsav. It ran for 2 years under me, with me, and then 3-4 more years, and then it was shut down. It had its own background and all that. She had helped me a lot, Enakshi Bhattacharya, and they took a lot of interest. So I thought she might be interested, and she could be a good representative from the electrical department. So I had included her. So there was a mix of and at the time of Heritage Center inauguration, in that function also, Professor Nandita Dasgupta took part. She came to me later, and we had a discussion. She said, a lot of research work to do. I'm still young. I said, it will be good for the institute. We give back something as a service. I don't want to pressurize you, but as much as possible you can do. It will be nice. And she cooperated. So that committee, I could not locate any person from administration at that time, because unless administration participates, it doesn't. They should participate. Then one Professor Raina is there. At that time, he was in charge of the photographic section. After all, I thought the photographs have to come from the photographic section. Professor Raina.
Professor J.P. Raina?
J.P. Raina.
Color TV television lab.
Yes. In fact, he also was doing some work on educational technology. When the educational technology cell was set up in 1987 or 8 by Professor L.S. Srinath, Professor Srinath, I think, asked him, he was somehow expressed his inability. Professor B.M.K. Shastri, my Guruji, became the first professor in charge of the educational technology cell, which has now grown up into our NPTEL and beyond. There's a marvelous transformation that has taken place. So I sent that letter to Professor Natarajan, leaving out, if you can see, 2 blanks. One was administration, another was computer center also. So Professor Natarajan,
possibly representation from the students as well?
That was on General Secretary Mr. Reddy, I think. Mr. Reddy. Student also had to be included. Very right. Thanks for reminding. I think Madhava Reddy or some name. So he approved, and then he suggested the name of Mr. Panchalan, who was the Deputy Registrar.
Right.
And it was very good. But in the next other meetings, I had a first meeting sometime immediately, and they were all very happy. They came. But of course, Mr. Panchalan was very busy so he deputed another person. I'm not able to recollect. They used to participate. So over a period of a few months, because Professor Natarajan wanted monthly reports.
And he wanted you to complete it in a year's time.
He completed it in a year's time. I also took it up. Right. And gradually I really got into it because also it was a challenge. In the process, in the next, I think 2-3 months, as I was looking for photographs, the administration sent me any number of cardboard boxes full of albums. And they all came to my lab. My lab was a very small, my office in the heat transfer lab. I didn't have much space. So whenever people walked in, they said, hey, what is all this? I said, this is history of IIT Madras. When I went through those albums, I was absolutely thrilled and excited and amazed some of them were such fantastic black and white photographs, and they were all taken in the 60s. I am talking about 90s here. Excellent condition. The quality of the photographs, all black and white. And I could see history in those photographs. But when I first took them up, I took this album, I could not relate. As and when I looked at the albums, they had very clearly written also, I think, the year of the album.
It's a bit like archaeology. You take out something and you see a piece of history.
Absolutely. There. So that really got me into, much more focused, and gradually I developed the passion. Let me find out. And therefore, the role of Professor Shankaran and Professor Maji Senior is very important, because in many of those photographs, I didn't know who was who. Our faculty, I could make out some of them. Professor Ramchandran was there. And that's when Professor Shen Gupta started getting into my sphere of no words are enough for the contribution he has made to the IIT Madras. We have to really thank him for that. Anyway, so this happened, and then I started asking people around. I sent a note to all the departments. It says, started kindly send photographs, whatever documents you have. Even at that time, I still didn't know which of these has heritage value.
Yes.
That's a very important thing, between just storing some material and storing materials of heritage value. And I was also new, but some of those you could immediately identify. For example, the foundation stone thing, I said, this is it, 1959, July 31st. That's when it started. I saw Professor A. Ramachandran taking over on December 11th, 1967 from Shengupta. I said, this is it. And some of the photographs, Professor Shengupta, I have to say this, he had a huge table in his office, obviously, with a model of the campus development. And you will see many photographs where he used to explain that to the visitors. Many Germans, mostly Germans, parliamentarians, education ministers, scientists, technologists, and all of them were coming. So this, really excited me, and I started. So then I had to classify between photographs which I will definitely, their heritage value, and many others which were not, but they have to be preserved. So over a period of time, I cannot say really how long, but very soon, not too far, because by 1999 he wanted me to do that. So as much as possible, the collection of the photographs were over. I was going to go through that. Much later only, I thought of contacting people from outside. And the alumni association was still not that strong. I wanted to ask a lot of alumni. Later, I started sending emails to alumni saying, look, we are starting, or we have, because it's finally started in 2006 only. So it took long time, 8 years, from 1998 to 2006, where I contacted. So that's how it started, and I collected
the exhibits as well. These are photographs. Whether any exhibits that you identified as required in the Heritage Center?
Obviously, I wanted the people who started this. Then I came to know the name of R. Natarajan, first registrar. That personality also was a person who really struck me, because now the other thing related is the annual numbers of the institute for the first 5-6 years. I remember the first one was given to me by one Mr. Sambashiva, alumnus. And I said, give me a Xerox, don't have to give me the original. I got all those books, I think they're all, we got finally 5 or 6.
Yes.
You are aware of that. And
I consulted them a lot at a certain point, but we will talk about that
Yeah,
later.
they gave us a lot of input at that time.
Yes.
What I am saying is, so these reports were there, photographs were there. There I saw, gave an idea that I should have some materials of our own people who started all this. And then my idea still had not gone to collecting heritage value things from the IIT itself in terms of laboratories or workshops.
Well, you had the foundation stone here
Foundation stone.
to begin with. Yes.
The foundation stone actually, it was in front of the CLT. It was there for a long time. As a student, I used to see that. The foundation stone was laid somewhere in the AC College of Technology, CLRI. In between, then it was a track, which is now the Koturpuram High Road. It was a very small road because there was no bridge on the other side.
Yes.
It was a secluded thing by industrialists and rich people. That's another story. We started IIT Madras in AC College and Gindi College, the workshops and all. Somewhere there, the inauguration function was held. Humayun Kabir, professor, he inaugurated that. And that foundation stone, actually later I realized it was a inauguration stone.
Yes.
I made a difference. Foundation happens before the institute is built up.
Right.
This was the inauguration, although the building also had to build up because the area was given to us at that time. So that was the kind of thing I was looking at. But to be frank, the full attention was on photographs and documents. Somewhere there, then I found, where is Professor A.L. Modilya? If you look at all the histories, the books and all, Professor A.L. Modilya, the chairman board of governors, who of course was the father of Professor A. Ramachandran.
Yes.
And the Arcot family was known for its education contributions. Dr. A.L. Modilya's brother was the Constituent Assembly member, if I am right. Very highly educated and wanting to do something for the society. And then Professor Shengupta, Professor Natarajan, and some of the people, Dr. Adonover, President, I wanted to have something about them. I was told that there is a bust of Dr. A.L. Modilya, but it was not to be seen. So initially I said, let me go through all these things and finish off, then I'll start searching for them. Finally I got it at some point in time. So initially this is what I was making. I was, like you viewed a story out of Campus Times for this Campus Times. I was trying to find out the sequential happenings, meetings, personalities involved, up to the up to the establishment of the institute itself in 1959.
Yes.
Because there I learned it all started with Nehru's visit to FRG July 14, 15, 16, 1956. By that time IIT Kharagpur was established 1951 and it has stopped. They were already planning IIT Bombay, it was also happening, but it had not yet started. So initial focus for me was to look at the origin of the idea and then the establishment. And then 59 later, I was focusing on that basically. And to weave the story.
Right.
Beginning that Nehru's visit. And I didn't have good photographs at that time, but later I got it from a German embassy, much later. Finally, I located the bust of Dr. A.L. Modilya. So that is there. Then I saw Professor Shengupta's painting in the present day management department.
What was then the Central Library?
It was Central Library. In one big hall, that painting was there. And I went and saw it and was very impressed. The other thing I saw, this is also a photograph. I went to photographic section, it was in the HSB at that time. Right up, when we entered on the wall, I saw a picture, big one. We didn't change it at all, we put it as it is. Shengupta and A.L. Modilya standing and talking to each other. That also, I was very thrilled. The chairman of the board of governors, a highly accomplished man, and Professor Shengupta talking about the establishment. The contribution of those two and also Mr. Natarajan, director, it should be written in golden words, because establishment of an institution is extremely difficult. And also sustenance of that and development, that is also another part of it. So for the establishment of this entire campus, the philosophy, the policies, these people. So I got the painting of Professor Shengupta, I located, and the bust of Dr. A.L. Modilya. the foundation stone. These were the real three things, if you say they were immediately I could get.
While this was going on, you were looking for objects of heritage value to IIT Madras. You also needed to think about which place to situate the whole heritage center in, because it was just a concept till then.
Yes. Actually, as it finally happened, Mr. Kumaran, the collection of the photographs, documents, weaving a story, it turned out to be a much simpler task than locating a place. So, Professor Natarajan used to call me for some meetings, in the dean's meeting also, what are you doing? I used to send the reports. The location was still not given to me. So, once I asked him, maybe in a dean's meeting, for two things. Sir, I have collected and I am trying to do, still it's going on, but where do we locate it and where are the funds? Later I came to know at that time there was crunch in all IITs for funds. So he said, Kolar, that's why, something to that, that's why I have asked you to look at it. Where it can be done, I cannot simply give it to you on a platter. Tell me, and funds, try to see where you can get the funds, he said. I said, oh my God, IIT Madras, I thought we'll give the funds. That's what happened later. But at that time, I was asked to do both of the things. But I said, okay, forget about the funds part now. Let me look at the location. So there is a very nice picture given in this book. I identified a lot of thinking, lot of 5 places. I marked it on a sketch and sent it to him. The very first location that came to my mind was behind this block. There is now a cycle stand.
Yes.
Behind that area was empty. That was a road coming from our O80 into the C8.
Yes.
There is an in road and a kind of out road.
Yes, yes.
So this road, my idea was that this is for mostly students who should know the history of IIT Madras and visitors, all kinds of visitors who will come to generate interest. It should be in a place where it is easily accessible. And this place was empty beyond the cycle stand and quite a bit. The other thing I was thinking was, it should be a new building. We can design as we like, number one, and there will be scope for expansion. If not sideways, it could grow
Vertically.
And at that time, I'm from Bangalore, they used to talk about one ground is 60-40, half a ground is 30-40 feet, that was the same. So I said I wanted one ground here, 60-40. I brought it up with Professor Anant, sir, this will be very ideal. So I said that. Then the point was it should be in a central location. So you see our Gajendra Circle, which is the heart of our campus. From Gajendra, you can just walk into the central school grounds and you see before the ground and next to the road, there is quite a bit of a few trees and all that was there. And 60-40 was no problem. So I thought it could be there. It was easy, accessible.
Right.
The third place was again Gajendra Circle. You have the guest house. It was still not called the Bose-Einstein Guest House. It was called Bose-Einstein Guest House later by Professor Anant when the Germans came, I think maybe 2008 or 2009. So that was quite a big place at the corner. I thought, director's house, guest house and heritage center, 3. Then I made one more somewhere near behind the ICSR. ICSR had come up, 96, 95.
Recently
ICSR
come
building.
up. Yes.
ICC Industrial Consult Center started in 1973 by Professor Wagner in BSB, but a new building was built. Madras of India inaugurated it. Professor N.V.C. Swami was the director, maybe 94 or 95. So it existed. So I thought just behind that, if I have between that and the hospital, and even the center of innovation was not there at that time, next to the workshop, So I thought in that area also it's not too bad, it was part of the academic zone. That I suggested. having it in ad block as it is today was never in my my.
No, there was a time when you were thinking of the old central library.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. In fact, it came from Professor Anant, I think. He said, "Why don't you look at it?" So I went there. It was still the old library. It was not the Department of Management. I was very happy. Centrally located, readily available, a big entrance hall, lobby, big hall on the left, and 2 rooms, and one hall which I thought I can make it into 2. As you enter, that itself was a huge area. Then on the left and the right, he said, "Why don't you?" I really liked it. So I had to design for that. So I asked I got hold of one lady by name Uma, who was good in graphics and computer graphics and all that. It was almost as if that will be given to me. It was not officially done. I think I spent quite a few months. This lady Uma used to come to my lab. She was living in Tiruvanamayur.
The central library itself was going. It was being shifted to.
It was being shifted
an adjoining building
because 2001 or so,
the multi-story.
The multi-story new
building.
complex had 2001, I think. Professor Natarajan was there. He left in 2001. Yeah, I think Professor R. Natarajan. He was there from 95 to 2001, and then Professor Anant took over. So it was getting empty. That photograph also is there where there is nothing. I really liked it, and I went full blast on that. Not only me, engineering unit, if I remember correctly, also was involved in some detailed design. But then I really the layout of the center, what will go where, photographs, documents, that really was working. And every day, this lady Uma used to come, and I used to sit with her for a long time. I wanted a video walkthrough for the center to be, and I did it in what one could say a traditional fashion. Madras is the gateway for South Indian culture. IIT Madras here, and beautiful natural heritage here. I thought it should represent tradition. And gradually it will go into some modern things, but maybe something, some kind of a transition thing also could be designed. It would have been possible if an independent area was given here, full freedom for that. But this was kind of a already available thing, but it had its own in terms of space. So I had designed how when you walk into the lobby, where the stairs were there, we would close it up, have a competition for a IIT Madras logo to be something about IIT Madras. And whenever we talk about IIT Madras, we talk about Gajendra Circle, the deer and the natural heritage. That was the idea. And I think I called one as a blue room, green room, pastel room, and red room, or some names in my mind. Okay, I will have this kind of a background and all that. So as you enter the old library, the left was the big hall, and you have given those drawings and pictures also of that in. Right. So I said in the hall there will be 2 huge tables in a very decorative, and the walls without too much of changes also. And another concept I had at that time, I didn't know how to execute this. All of them should not be static. So they should be static photographs or whatever. They should also be place for rotating the exhibits and all. So while wall I thought could be static, permanent, in the hall those 2 huge tables with proper arrangement with glass sessions, I can place things there which can be changed now and then. I was not exposed to great technology at that time, and there was no big people who could help me out on that outside. So I thought of
Did you engage an architect to help you along in this process at any point?
No, it was me, and in some meetings I would tell them, and some input would come from them. Directly for that, no, I did not. This lady Uma, she did what I, of course, told her. Some minor suggestions from her about the arrangements and layout and all that. But overall, I would say it was my vision, my idea of the layout and the photographs. I had an idea of the photographs already.
Did you have any model that inspired you to in how it should be done?
I looked out. It's an interesting point. No university has this kind of a thing. So I went to the National Art Gallery actually. I said, how are they? But there I didn't find too many photographs. It was all, you might have gone there, bronzes and things like that, how to maintain them, and that beautiful building outside.
Yes. Yes.
That was one thing I did. I checked out with IAC, some institutions. So IIT Kharagpur, I was told it had a museum. In fact, I wrote to the registrar there and I said I'll come and visit and all that. Somehow it did not materialize. But there was a museum of science and technology with one corner with information on the IIT Kharagpur history, which is the first IIT in the system. Where else did I go? I went to university.
So did you visit Kharagpur?
No, I could not.
You could not.
I wrote repeatedly and somehow the response was not. But even then I could have gone. But I was so much, kind of focused and let me get through this. So you can say very little in terms of any examples for me and the state of technology what I can use at that time. And recently in Madras, they have started the photographic exhibitions, big national, every year it happens. There was nothing at that time. I went to some art galleries, a few of them, very few of them are there. 1990s was a happening year in the country. This is a very important aspect actually. 1991, the economy opened up. And a lot of freedom were given to people apart from the economy. You can do whatever you want kind of a thing. So there was definitely a change of environment in the country in terms of freedom to do whatever you want, including economy. Students expected a lot of freedom and do whatever they want, everybody. So some art galleries were coming up. So 90s was overall a happening year.
So this meant that exhibition technology was also changing.
But yeah, look, what we had was this, occasional Pongal fairs in island, that island, some exhibitions used to take place. I think I went to Philately Center on Mount Road, That's a very good, where they exhibit stamps and all that.
Yes.
And that corner in the, even though it is the General Post Office.
The head post office,
Head Post
I
Office,
think.
yeah.
Yes.
I got some idea. Some idea I got. So, one thing is photographs, documents, records, and any other hardware material, if I can. So these were the things we should go in. That I had an idea, but how to exhibit, how to arrange.
And then, of course, while all this was going on, the change in location took place. It was not going to be the Department of Management Studies or
it was
Central
not
Library.
Department of Management Studies. If I remember, even third floor here was considered, because ground floor there were security and the telephone exchange was there. Maybe telephone exchange.
So, as you said, the changing technology was also playing its part, because the manual telephone exchange, I suppose, was getting phased out at that time.
This very, very place we are now sitting, we used to come here to make phone calls in the night, international calls and all that. Even as faculty members in 84, we did not have phones, many of us. We had to go outside to make STD calls, even faculty at that time. In Adyar, under Rajiv Gandhi, it started 91, all this telecommunication. So students would come here in the night to call. their universities and all that. Even I have used it. I never thought of this area to be converted. But I see photographs, drawings, third floor here. So I went up and came down those stairs and all. There is a portion which was away from the main building with stairs, but a part of an administration block itself. So this shifting of things were going on. Even in 2003, if I remember, it maybe around that time it was decided. I had given my suggestions,
So
and then it was
that meant
decided.
you had to rethink the drawings and the layout that you had
Layout,
envisaged.
rethink everything, and then Professor Anand arranged for a consultant through our registrar. Miss Usha Titus was the registrar. I remember once I had sent to the administration my video walkthrough. By the way, when Professor Anand took over as director, one of the earlier things, I don't know whether I mentioned, he asked me to come to the HOD's meeting and present it to the faculty, HODs. And I did that, and I got a lot of appreciation. Many people who were present there said, it was very nice, I hope you will be able to do it. So I was, that was for the library, old library building. Then I think Professor Anand thought it would be okay if it is here in this building. That was his decision, which I said fine, because this is a center. My two things was center.
Yes.
But I thought this space cannot have future expansion. You can't grow this way or that way. But at that time it was decided it was the best place. And actually, I do tend to forget that name. You can even remind me if you know of that name. He either from Bangalore or...
You mentioned somebody called Jeffrey, I think. Was there anybody by that name?
No, Jeff Freud was for our teaching learning center. I don't know whether that mentioned.
Oh, possibly.
Professor Anand always remembers his and quotes. I'll try to find out. So once I remember registrar and this gentleman came to my heat transfer lab. I didn't have much of discussion, but they were in our hall and they, I think, saw some of these things. I think at that time the idea changed. Both of the location and the way they are displayed.
Right.
What you finally see in your photographs with these panels, that was not my original idea. It definitely came from Professor Anand, but through these people. I then had to completely shift my... But then it became simple in one way, not much of thinking, because display panels were there. The photographs have to be put onto that.
You have to essentially put in place an exhibition.
Put in place in an exhibition.
The panels allowed a lot of lighting, natural lighting to come through unhindered. And at the same time, the glass panels on the sides also did the same thing.
Yes, but it had one, over a period of time we found out, within 1 year I found out. So the panels are excellent, lighting, first of all, is central place. It was available, but Professor Anand, he did not. At that time it was fairly big hall, but definitely future expansion was a boundary condition. Lot of lighting, that was a very good idea. Oh, there is a story about it.
Today we have blinds down because it's too hot outside.
Too hot.
Yes.
We never had. But I got some coating done on these glasses for light, some 3M, I think 3M coating or something. But after some time, so I'm now jumping, the last set of panels started getting dull. That was the effect of the sun rays.
The lighting. Right.
Onto only the first set of panels and part of it.
Right.
They got gradually faded. In fact, at the bottom where I said what it is, you can see they're just almost, there was a different color. That was the effect of light. So while lighting was good, idea was good. And we had, by the way, automatic lamp system, automatic lighting. So as you move near the panel, they would light up. Sometimes they worked,
Yes.
sometimes they did not
Yes.
work. And a couple of times I was very embarrassed when some visitors came and they were not working. But you know, that was there. I thought this door, there's a door here, goes into the lobby.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, it's good that they can come in from there also. That will give another kind of a boost. But also good idea that the door, the main entrance was planned there. But my most, I accepted it and I said, let me do it. That how to display in terms of product, that was decided with those panels. I was not sure of how that holding the boards in mid space.
Yes.
With two steel
There were cables initially, if I remember
cables,
right.
and
Yes.
at the bottom, and over a period of time they did give some trouble. Some of them were
Some of them,
some
they were
of them
failing after a few years.
But that is looking at that time, that was the best thing. It was decided. So then I called out, and one thing I did not worry about at all was funds. And the engineering unit, they did a marvelous job. They appointed a contractor for all these things. Their own official procedures were there. My job then boiled down to selection of photographs, captioning, and how to put it. So I called out for some tenders, and about 4 or 5 gave tenders. I called them. One particular company, I tend to forget that name now. I got him, I gave them these panels and do it on this. Show me how you can do it. And they did that. Finally, one particular small time company, it was basically transferring the photographs onto the
printing company maybe.
Print. It was a little bit more than that, actually. They were engineers, but not necessarily architects or real planners. This job they could do. So I asked them to do it, and I found some of them, and they were fresh and new at that time. It was very good. That was given. The other thing, of course, was I decided on the sequence. If you remember, I think I called them galleries: early history, campus development, facilities. On that wall, we had the convocations.
There was a wall of convocations.
And this is the
Nature, it was one section
Natural
here.
heritage
Yes,
here.
in this corner.
Then here there were 2 panels about student activities.
Yes.
Then Indo-German cooperation, I think.
There was a distinguished alumnus section.
Distinguished alumnus was...
It was up to date then.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And then Indo-German cooperation. It
Yes.
ended with that. And there was a space for a table to put...
Eventually ending with a section called Popuri.
I call it... at that time, I didn't know what...
It was miscellaneous.
miscellaneous.
That's right.
And then our trophy of the inter-IIT thing, and some of those things, there was a space on either side. And that I said it will be a mini theatre. Even those videos were made by our own people here. Ravi and Kannan, they helped a lot. I remember once I wrote the words for that, but then Ravindranath was our man in the... When I was in the CC chairman, a lot of this... See, I was a CC chairman from 2008, but this was inaugurated in 2006. I had to ask, and also for any funds, I had to go to the Dean of Administration. It was given, but it used to take time sometimes, so I was getting... and then I had a security person at the gate. It was open.
Well, I think you're going one step ahead. I wanted to ask you about the inauguration.
Oh,
because
yeah.
all this was taking time, but eventually you had set a deadline, if I remember right.
What happened was, we started doing that, but still I thought it would take time. But now I remember, thank you for asking that question. December of 2005, I got a call from Professor This work was going on.
December 2005.
He said, Kolar, March 3rd, 2006, Professor A. Ramachandran has agreed to inaugurate finally. That was December. I had actually I didn't tell Professor Anant at that time. They had some personal family function at that time. I said it is not right to tell him about this. It was a boundary condition, my condition. I pleaded with him, sir, just a few days. Somehow I wanted it even for a few days. I told him, sir, still a lot of work is there. They have to put it up and all that. It will all happen. One thing about Professor Anant and of course Professor Natarajan, I was sometimes scared of the faith and trust they had in me. After delegating the work, very little interference, if I may call so. I badly wanted them to give suggestions, criticize, hey, this is not okay, this is okay. After all, it was Professor Natarajan's idea. He would have something. And Professor Anant is the person who finally got it done. So, equal credit to both of them. But not even once. I sometimes used to say, Ajit, you will do everything fine. You go ahead. So, that was the kind of a thing. So, he knew I would do it by March 3rd. So, I accepted.
So, you had this period of 3 months or so.
That's all.
Or maybe less. Just about 2.5 months.
Maximum maybe. 3 months, because December some around that time he called.
To set it up.
I really went after that. Those 3 months were very hectic. All this was very hectic and all that. Any such project, unless it's not simply interest that you have or you must have passion. And sometimes it would also affect your other professional work and personal. But this becomes the
It obviously took you time to write even a pamphlet like the glimpses of heritage and so on.
Yeah, you are right. Yes. I wanted to get something published at that time, so I wrote this. And here, in fact, it was typed by my personal secretary, Lalita and Sudha Ramakrishna were my project associates actually. And you can see here, Nandita Dasgupta helped me out a little bit on this. So, this is called the Glimpses of Heritage. This was the one which was released by Professor A. Ramachandran on the day of...
Was this on the day of the inauguration?
On the day. What happened again, these people who did it is designed and printed by impressions. I told them everything and I wanted a few days before. But you know what happens? On December 2nd, I want to come to that, there was rains. And they had put up a big pendal and it was semi-collapsing stage and all that. The book did not arrive even when the function was going on. I was very desperate. That's one thing I remember. But also we accepted and we started working towards it. I used to come and see that panels were kept. I put pressure on the people who are supposed to do the printing one by one. But one thing also I remember, the previous day also I told Professor Anand, sir, still some more work. No, it will be okay. On that morning, March 3rd, the last 2-3 panels were still being put in place in the morning.
Work was going on in the night.
Yes, and Professor Anant and Mrs. Anant.
You may not have had much sleep that night.
For several nights and a lot of times, I mean, I have to say, I didn't have proper lunch, proper dinner that time, and also while doing this, I was so much focused, I had to just do it in the right way. Because one thing, it was a responsibility given to me. As I said again, the trust that Professor Anant, I didn't want to, disappoint him.
That's right.
And Natarajan, Professor Natarajan. Professor Anant and Mrs. Anant walked in. I was sitting down with the people, I got up. He said, Kolar, it's excellent, very nice. Look, it's all over, everything. So he gave me that, kind of pat on the back. Professor Mrs. Jayashree Anand, Kolar, it's really nice, it has come up very well. When you put in a lot of efforts, a few words of praise, especially from the people who have given you that responsibility, that takes away all the stress and strain you have gone through. It is really worth it. So, and Professor A. Ramachandran was coming for the inauguration. Ramchandran, because he was my grand guide, that's another story, my guru's guru. And one of the reasons why I started working on a particular, coal was also because of him, what happened in 1998. So everybody in IIT Madras had, Professor Ramchandran is held in high esteem, was and is, not only here in the Government of India, DST, and he started from 1973 when he went.
Professor Kolar, did you have to look for exhibits or any resource material outside the campus?
Yes, that's a good point, Professor Kumaran. I wanted to know, one, how the media covered this IIT Madras establishment, the origin of this, and how they reported it. That would also be a good heritage material for the center. And the two newspapers I thought of was Indian Express and of course the Hindu. So I wrote to both of them. I wrote to Mr. Ram, Hindu editor-in-chief at that time, and also, I forgot, Indian Express editor also. Immediately they said, we'll be very happy, and they said, please contact this person in the Indian Express and all. The Indian Express at that time office was in the present day Express Avenue Mall.
Yes.
In fact, that was the Indian Express estate.
I see.
That where the huge building was there. It was converted into a mall. I mean, new building was built. That particular express office has gone to Ambattur now. So I went there, and with my two students, my two research scholars, Sudhakar and Suresh and others, helped me a lot in this. I didn't have any other official assistants. And as I always say, many a time I have felt the recognition that IIT Madras faculty get outside. Many instances are there. The moment I said I am from IIT Madras, the person in charge, he simply said, sir, we are happy, just go into this hall and take whatever you want. I mean, tell us what you want, we'll make a... He had that kind of a trust, in allowing me going into their own archives kind of a thing. So when we went there, I have a photograph of that. They had put all these express old editions, I don't know, 100, something like 100 each, in a Gada cloth as they call, long cloth or something. I said, So I wanted anything from that 1956 July visit of Nehru.
Yes.
So that is what I was looking for. So from there we started searching. Especially I wanted to know from there to the establishment basically. Later developments we can always get. So we started searching by dates, and we got some very good information from Indian Express. Then we went to Hindu. I went to Hindu.
So did this involve actually turning page after page of the
newspapers,
reading them?
Especially the dates were known initially. Approximate dates I knew, so I gave them, my students, look, this period you kindly look into it and all. So we had to open up the Gada cloth.
You may have to look at a month or so.
Exactly. They were all, like this. So it's not very large number.
Right.
But I was surprised. That was how it was. I'm talking about 2000 or something, 2001 or so. I got a good number of them. One particular person helped me a lot. I had invited him for the Heritage Center inauguration also, a middle level kind of a manager. Then I went to Hindu, and the Hindu people said, sir, we have got the okay from Mr. Ram. Tell us the dates. We have already digitized. We will find it and send it to you. So I gave them the full date, from July to 1915, 16. After several days, again I went, and they had already copied them, soft copies. Everything was ready for me. So I didn't, there was no struggle. In fact, in my campus times also, I have thanked Mr. N. Ram for that. I didn't even meet him. Everything, that is the, of course, power of IIT Madras, So I brought them, and it was interesting, how it was. And there I found, I marked it there, July 14, 15, 16th, Nehru, Indira Gandhi visited, and others born with President Heiss as the president, and Adenauer was the chancellor. They had meetings and all. So they had 2 days of discussion. In the communique, as they say, July 16th, there's a long communique. In one paragraph, it says it was decided to start a technical institute in India. IIT name also they did not use because we know the history of that, but IIT Kharagpur was also there.
That's right.
But somehow they did not use that word. A technical institute in India, there will be exchange of faculty for PhD programs, and then equipment will be given. A brief 1 paragraph. That was the start. I was amused to see the term technical institute.
The term higher technological institute was
I'm coming
also
to
used,
that.
I remember.
Different times they used different terminologies, that also I found, higher technology. But nowhere was IIT mentioned till it was almost decided to establish after the ACT committee under Dr. A.L. Mudaliar approved that. They didn't mention Madras also. They said South. Because
Yes.
still it was not done. 1956 they didn't know.
That's right.
It was finally decided in 58, I think. After 2 years after that, because here many institutes were vying for that. So anyway, I got those. So I got my own history through that, and Rooker's visit later. And then there was a report saying lots of things have been done, but still a lot of things are being delayed. It's not starting. The German government, is trying to push things and all that. So at that time here, obviously, Mr. Subramaniam was at work convincing Kamaraj for this land and all that. You can speculate a little bit on that. So these two were my 2 major inputs from outside. But another thing I did, I went to the, there is a government of Tamil Nadu or India Archives Institute in Edmore.
The one at Egmore, yes.
Egmore.
Yes.
I went there to find out if they have any archival material about the grant of this land to IIT Madras.
Yes.
They were again nice, but they asked me to give a letter and I gave it to them. But after, there's a very good archive center. So much of our history, British history has been recorded there, preserved. They sent me a very official letter after some time. We did not find any documents of that sort. Then somebody told me, gave me a name. Sir, he has retired, but he was in charge of this land thing in Madras government. It was called Madras government at that time. I went to the government offices a couple of days to find out, but it became too much for me. I mean, in the sense, I was not getting proper information. So that I gave up on that. And as I said, still, alumni, I approached some, not much I could get. So I decided with whatever I have, and this Indian Express Hindu reports will go. And as you know, these volumes were there then Campus Times, all the Campus Times, now you have collected many of them. At that time there were very few available. I said with now whatever I have now, we will start and
I recollect there is, even now we have a photo on display. That's an aerial shot of the campus taken in 1950s.
Yes,
before the 58.
That squadron leader.
How did you get that photograph?
It was in our IIT. In our,
it was in our
institute. Now you reminded me, there were a few photographs. At the back, squadron leader's name also is given. I am trying to remember. And they had marked with a red pencil.
That's right.
The areas that could be given.
A red rectangle was marked on.
They were trying to locate the exact area. What I found was that once Mr. Subramaniam convinced Mr. Kamaraj, we had to give free land. Somehow the idea came up that it should be only in this Rajbhavan estate. And I don't have any proof of that, but I know there was some protest by some people, important people, that this is a area of flora and fauna. I mean, you can't have buildings here. But somehow I think Mr. Kamaraj was convinced, and with his vision, and when Subramaniam and maybe Mr. R. Venkatraman was the industries minister. But the main role is Mr. C. Subramaniam, as his daughter-in-law later, I think in another interview or somewhere she said. So, excuse me. That happened, and those photographs, I was very excited. We have put one or two of them also here. I could identify the Sardar Patel Road. There was no Velacheri, almost no population south of IIT Madras. I could see the Buckingham Canal extremely well. And next to Buckingham Canal was the Kasturba Nagar. It's all land.
Agricultural
Land.
Yes.
You can see that.
Yes.
And very few. So when I saw that, I was very excited, and that gave me a good basis. How an institute could starting from searching of the land, and then its government has to give that to a documentation to IIT for this purpose and all. All this was therefore done. I think Dr. A.L. Mudaliar was a big force. He was a big man in education, the Vice Chancellor of Madras University. He was the Board of Governors. Yeah, this was much before, of course, Sengupta came in 1959. And some secretaries from Union government also were extremely, obviously, helpful. Our, Professor L.S. Srinath was our director. His, I think, elder brother L.S. Chandrakant was an educational advisor in Government of India, or deputy educational advisor. I have given his photograph in the Campus Chimes.
That's right.
That was sent to me by Professor L.S. Srinath. Sir, we wanted. So some of these people helped during that time, and I would like to believe Mr. C. Subramaniam played a big part of it. And then this particular configuration, if I can say, taking some land from Taramani village. Yes. And even now you see that the oldest structure, a small room kind of a thing in granite. Right. I later found, and there is a change of elevation there. There was kind of a boundary that might have been a toll gate or some such control point for the Velacheri, Taramani village and this forest area. That is a little bit of speculation on my part. That is still remaining. There was, later I heard, a very prominent personality really objected to the thing. Much later, I went to that institution and I asked the successors of that institute. They said, I don't think there was any objection from this person whom I thought so. But then I read that Professor Sengupta promised that major trees will not be cut down. They identified some, there are different kinds of trees. That is why our two main roads are kind of serpentine. Right. Especially this one here, Delhi Avenue, I think, from in front of the director's house.
The Delhi Avenue.
That's the Delhi Avenue. You will see how, you will wonder why there is no straight
curves. Yes.
It protected the trees, some of the trees which came in the way. Obviously, on the other side, it was a much straighter thing. So, all these points I learnt, and Professor Sengupta took care of that. So, that is another background to this thing. And then it was signed, Dr. A.L. Mudaliar was the chairman of that committee. And then work obviously started. I think they fixed 59 July as the inauguration. So they gave the deadline and they started.
As the start of the academic year.
Yes. But still there was nothing here. In 1960, President Hayes visited. There was still a lot of open land here. Construction had started. Yes. Right. So, the institute started in Gindi College and AC College. Workshops were done, and classes were held there.
The Highways Research
Station. Yes. When President Hayes came in 1960, actually the function was held in the either CLRI building or AC Technology. We have those photographs.
Right.
There also we can see Professor Sengupta with his the long stick. He was explaining the configuration of
using a map.
Right. And another person who helped during that time, I learned during the thing, is Gerhard Fischer.
Yes.
He was the German consul in Madras. He took keen interest in this. You will see him in many of the photographs. Later he became a very international known person for his work in leprosy and all that. He got a Gandhi Peace Prize. And a small disappointment for me, he visited IIT Madras just before the Heritage Center inauguration, maybe 6 months, 1 year or so. He came to IIT Madras, I didn't know about it. When I wrote a letter, I got some address through German embassy. I think his son replied that Professor Fisher had passed away.
I see.
And then I asked him for anything about IIT Madras. That he said, sir, everything that we had given it to the German government, and once it goes there, it will be very difficult to get it. That's what he wrote to me. So that's another thing that I wrote. Gerald Fisher. After him, there is a basketball tournament.
That's right.
In IIT Madras.
Yes.
So that was also the context of that time. So during the inauguration here, I had made this Glimpses of Heritage book. I wanted it to be released by Professor A. Ramachandran, but as fate would have it, book did not come on time for the function. After the function was over, this book came, the person brought it. So inside the Heritage Center, I requested Professor Ramachandran, nobody, myself, Anant and 4-5, sir, kindly. So, very good Kolar. And just one last personal point there. During the speech that he gave, Professor Ramachandran, I was very, almost honored. He said, he turned to me and he said, I thought Professor Kolar does research in heat transfer and energy only. I didn't know that he was also a good historian. I cherish those words coming from A. Ramachandran on that day. So on that day, everything went off very well. That was the inauguration point. After that, there were a few more details to be done, but a few visitors started coming. And Professor Anant and even later Professor Ramurthy also, any VIPs that were coming, he would call and said, so-and-so would coming. I didn't have a full-fledged support here, so it was mostly closed.
Yes.
I had a security person sitting saying, you please open it, people will come. We have put a visitor's book there. But after some time we realized the footfall was not that great. So the security was removed. I put a phone there also, even though that number must be there. We had to open this door, either that door. There was no footfall. I tried to give publicity as much as possible. A few people came. But within a few days after the inauguration, I got a call from Professor Anand that a TU9 team was coming from Madras, Technical University 9. 9 presidents or vice chancellors of 9 universities. That's some big meeting. Kolar kindly come and so they came here, about 10-12 of them. Why I am saying this is, there is the first view of the Heritage Center by any Germans, and these were all university vice chancellors. They were highly impressed, especially when they came to this Indo-German cooperation. I could see, they said, we didn't know that we had contributed so much to the establishment of IIT Madras. I can only say they were immensely pleased, to the effect that later in the day I got a call, you are wanted for dinner also. They have specially asked you to attend the dinner from director's office. So I went and Professor Anant introduced me. So many of them came and of course congratulated Professor Anant and told me it was a very nice thing. So that was a very big praise coming from Germans. Later, as and when people came and I used to open it out. It so happened 2008 I became the chairman Center for Continuing Education. Then I had some people to assist me. It is not that anybody stopped me from appointing assistants. I did not want to bother anybody at that time and let me do as much as possible. And when the chairman's CC office came to me, so we had our Mr. Sarvaran, who is now the deputy registrar.
That's right.
He was there. Our Ravi was the software person. Mr. Kannan came a little later. Our Sendi photographer was there.
Yes.
Then Inbamani was also. All those people helped me tremendously in running the shows, having some interviews. Literally, sometimes I pushed the display boards. All these were static. I wanted some, so whenever some people came, I used to put boards here in between those pillars, remember? And select photographs and all that. And we did that in 2010 when the Golden Jubilee took place.
Right.
A lot of these people had come. I remember very well.
There was an event called Nostalgia.
Nostalgia was there.
Yes.
A lot of old professors, Lutz came, Scheer came, Stahl, Rouet, Wagner, and he had brought a lot of drawings with him. He was the one, Professor Scheer, you interviewed. You and I interviewed him, if you remember. In the...
We spoke to Mr. Rekop.
Yes, and then Wagner also, I think.
Wagner, I think.
But somehow I thought in this, our chairman CC office had arranged for a lecture by Scheer. Anyway, he was the one who established the machine design production section. Every inch of that he had designed. He was very excited. He had brought some drawings. He put up those drawings here and he was explaining to other people.
I see.
So during the nostalgia that you were talking about, a lot of Germans had come and they really liked it. So that was another thing. And one of the important visitors who gave me a lot of pleasure and honor was Mr. Muttaya.
Yes.
Of the, you know
Mr.
him.
S. Muttaya.
S. Muttaya, you know him very well. I was following, I used to get Madras musings right from its inception.
Right.
I had heard about him. Beautiful. I also bought 2 books that he had written to know the history of Madras.
Yes.
Only through his books.
Yes.
So when all this was done, I requested him to come. He said okay. But finally he had come here to give a lecture. I don't know who had arranged it, in ESB or MSB. I attended, and at the end of that, sir, please come to the Heritage Center. He was very nice, and I had visited him 1 or 2 times in his house also. He was very impressed. A historian of Madras,
Yes.
impressed. And I was really very happy when he said, in very calm and quiet terms, I thought he was he would speak very reservedly and whatever comes from his mouth were, very important things. He said, Dr. Kolar is extremely interesting. There is no other place I have seen. In these words, he said, in any education, this should become a center for tourists who come to Madras, for them to come and see, to know the history of this great institution. So that was also a very big compliment for me at that time. Apart from, of course, Professor Anant and Mrs. Jayashri, they gave me a lot of appreciation. So as and when visitors came, personally I used to come to take them around. Even after Bhaskar Ramurthy became the director, also, 2011, he let me be the chairman center for continuing up to my retirement and also in charge of. And I took the help of my...
2011 reminds me of the publication of the Campus Chimes.
Campus Chimes.
And so we had been working on that a few years before that.
Yes.
And my references mostly came from the Heritage Center.
Yes.
It was thanks to the collections that we had here that I was able to
you are welcome.
In this form.
Yeah, you are welcome. Professor Anand told me once, look, one Mr. Kumaran is writing this book. Please kindly extend to him all that is possible from the Heritage Center, especially the photographs. He just told me. And then we met, maybe 2009 or 8, not very sure.
Yes, it took some time.
It took some time.
It went over a period of time, though I had started talking with first with Professor Jaishankar and then with Professor Ramamurthy, who was Dean Academics.
Dean of Academics.
And thus he was in charge of the 50 books to be brought out during the Golden Jubilee year. So I was talking through them with Professor Anand about this book, and I think that's when our connection,
Yes.
specifically for reference, began.
Yes. So you met me at that time and I said, whatever you want from the Heritage Center, I will do. And I was very impressed with your, the idea of writing this book in that particular fashion. There was no other history book at that time. Only we had was documents which I had in the Heritage Center and the photographs, with which I tried to weave a photographic story here.
Yes.
And you beautifully picked up on it, and you came up with a fantastic idea that campus times you will use on any other to make a story. To be very frank with you, I said, how will you do this? We didn't even have all the campus times at that time. It was limited. And what kind of things he will write from, taking snippets from here and all. But when I saw the first draft, I was very, greatly impressed is not a right thing to say, because you have done a great job. I was extremely happy that look, that can be done again, I say, a person who is committed to something. It's not for money we do those things, it may be secondary, but unless we are committed to what we are doing, we have focus. And I go further and say, you must have passion for whatever you do. And I can tell you with all due humility that once the Heritage Center was given to me, this charge, and campus chimes by Professor Natarajan and Anand, I really developed tremendous passion to it's a responsibility, and I knew it will be a long-term thing for the IIT Madras. It will be recorded history. That's what they. So the way you did it, and whenever you came, all those photographs were available. Anytime you used to ask, sir, what is this, who is this, and all that. I selected a lot of pictures. You also selected a lot of pictures. We wrote the captions, many of them. And then
Mr. Sendi took some pictures when we needed them.
Last moment, we really needed, I took him night. By the way, through this, I would like to thank Mr. Sendi, who was our photographer in our chairman continuing education. Extremely nice gentleman. I said, Sendi, we want to do, he would come out with the camera, Enge Polan sir, on my scooter. I wanted pictures especially of the hostel sector, the new messes.
One of AC Tech, if I remember right, or one of the
AC Tech
cradle institutions.
Yes. I said, no, even Guindy College. Guindy College I took also because when the IITs were being established, there was one proposal, however serious or not, Guindy College to be converted, Usmania University. I heard some Kuppam they wanted to do something. IISc, I got mixed information that they wanted it, that means Bangalore, but they didn't want it because IISc may be disturbed. So let Madras take another IIT or whatever. Why should it come to? So that was another episode that happened. So I took pictures of Guindy and AC College through Mr. Sendi. I should.
His fine books, pictures have come in the book.
So I have given acknowledgement.
Yes.
And he did it completely selflessly. He didn't ask for anything. He's a part of the IIT system, but people can say, sir, this is additional work on that. So Mr. Sendi took lots of photographs. So we put it together, and Miss Shashi Balachandran, she is the one who the overall design layout was hers. She was extremely good.
She had introduced some illustrations as well.
Beautifully, those things are here. Very nice. Stampa, her organization she was in Tiruvannamayu. So we visited her house a couple of times. Very calm and quiet and very dignified person. And she did a wonderful job. Even the very first draft she gave me was so impressive. So on those, the pictures that you were, kind of sketches that you were talking about, Gajendra Circle and all, that is slightly later, I think when we were about to finish, sir, how is this? I said, yes.
Right.
It was one of those things where everything came together very well. We had the Heritage Center, Professor Anand was supporting us, you were there, this lady came in, and over a period of a few months, this was done. And I don't know whether you remember how this name itself came about.
We were playing around with the
Yeah.
name Campus Times
Yes.
itself.
Yes, we were playing around. Somehow it just chimed in.
That's right. I think it was your suggestion,
Campus
and
chimes, it
it
chimes.
sounded very good.
Very good.
Yes.
And yeah, that actually I remember those days I was very happy. Hey, we selected a very good name for the book. And right from the beginning, Professor Anand was very clear. It's a coffee table book.
Well, I think that's really where the Heritage Center makes a very significant contribution, because it had these good photographs, which are essential for a coffee table book.
Yeah, every photograph here came mostly from our own IIT administration, and some from Express and Hindu, we have put it. And one or two of them came from the German embassy. Through them, I got some address of a photo company in Germany. I wrote to the German embassy in Delhi that particularly I want that inauguration when Nehru visited and all. Immediately, that company not only sent me the photographs itself, and you have to pay something. I didn't even want to bother the director, and I simply, it was a very small sum. And I was so very happy that day. There is I'll tell you something which embarrassed me at that time about that photograph. When in 2009 or 10, there was a Indo-German big seminar before the Jubilee. Kapil Sabbal had come, sustainability, Center of Sustainability was discussed. So, Education Minister, Miss Chavan, a lady, see, and the big delegation had come.
And it's Shavan.
Yes. It's a big function in SAC, big German delegation. I made friends with a lot of them, and it continued later also. She got up to speak. Now what happened was, there is a photograph which even here it was there. In one figure had identified as Chancellor Adenauer. Obviously it was not.
That's right.
And she got up, and that was put on the backdrop of the thing. In good faith by the organizers, they did not ask me, it was available, they put it up. She gets up and she said, but one thing I'm sure, this is not Adenauer. She said it in public. I was embarrassed. And somehow the German, they were looking at me, we were all together. So that said, I have to do something about it. So I wrote to the German embassy, and they guided me to this photographer. When it came, I was very happy. So that became one of my major things here. But now you have gone one step forward. You have the complete documentary that documentary of Nehru's visit to
Bonn.
Bonn in 1956.
That's right.
With Indira Gandhi and some of the Indian bureaucrats, Suktankar or somebody. They were all
right.
there. And even this morning it was there. So that is a very nice thing, because that is real heritage material. But a small side thing here, in those photographs I received, there was one photograph which came to me as a color photograph. Obviously on July 14th, 15th, 16th, 56, the Chancellor Adenauer had arranged for a banquet for Nehru and Indira Gandhi and others. There is a picture, even though it is with you, Adenauer and Indira Gandhi coming out. I think she is even holding his hand or something like that, in a beautiful reddish sari. The moment I saw that, I said, my God, how charming this is. She was a very charming person. I sent it to the faculty saying, something like that. Indira Gandhi, a charming Indira Gandhi, something, I don't know, going for a banquet, something like that. I got some criticism for that. A couple of, a few women faculty wrote accusing me of something like, male chauvinism. You should not have used the word charming. It is not right, appropriate. I was a little taken aback, but I really didn't bother. Even now I will say that was a very great photograph. For me, those are the real heritage, value, that documentary that you have got. So that is, after that, Miss Chavan's kind of a minor but embarrassing rebuke, I put in some more efforts and got it done. I was comfortable. Beyond that, I could not go at that time.
Right.
So over a period of time, many visitors came, and what else I can say about? There was no really student footfall. Let us be very frank about it. I sent out messages and all that, and but in that maybe I could have put in more efforts at that time. As I was getting close to my retirement, 2014. But I said it's okay.
Well, it was around that time,
disappointed.
around that period where I think maybe it was your retirement year or so, that you had organized a Heritage Center Day program in March, and you had asked me to come and give a talk on the strength of my having written this book. So that's when I knew that you had organized this event as an annual event on the IIT calendar.
Because March 3rd, 2007 came, I said, I have this thing, some days must be remembered by repeated, like our Independence Day, IIT Foundation Inauguration Day. This is all a reminder to people who are already here that, what our great institution when it started. But especially an institute like that, students should know, because they come and go, they don't stay for long, the importance of these things. So I said we should do it once, but also in one of the third, fourth, fifth Heritage Center Day, there was almost no audience. So it was quite. Professor Anant was so nice. Always he has been appreciative and understanding of whether it was Heritage Center, Campus Chimes, or the Teaching Learning Center later. He was extremely nice to me. Anyway, 2011, November or so, there was a reunion. Dr. Bhaskar Ramurthy had already taken over as director.
Yes.
2011, maybe June, July or so, Professor Anant retired.
Yes, that's correct.
So there was a gap. So Dr. Chandy was the acting head, but then Bhaskar Ramurthy became. So in a reunion in CLT, Professor Bhaskar Ramurthy said, we will release this book. This was, by the way, printed by one Prashant Nagraj and company. Prashant was the person, extremely cooperative. This was another thing. So from where to get it printed, whom? So I floated some kind of a thing. I looked through the web and wrote to a lot of people. You may remember one Miss Mendonca came from Bangalore. Why I am saying that, she gave me 2-3 books she had already developed. One was about Raj Bhavan of Karnataka.
I remember the book. Yes.
She was very persuasive.
Table, yes.
She came all the way from Bangalore. Sir, we will do it. We will take it up and all that.
You had a book coffee table book on the Netherlands as well, if I remember. Right.
From Netherlands also one book.
And there were a few others.
About 4 or 5 I got. Because everything I was doing first time. This Prashant Nagraj and company. Prashant was the young fellow.
I met Mr. Prashant.
Initially, I was not so impressed, but he, kept on working, and I showed him all these things. Anyway, there's a backstory. Then Shashi Balachandran was asked to do this.
To design the book.
Design the book, and then the printing took place by these people. And generally, it went off well. I think about 1,000 copies or so at that time I printed. It was released by Dr. Bhaskar Ramurthy in 2011.
Possibly in December.
November or December, because there's a reunion time.
That's right.
Reunion time.
Yes.
Again, Professor Anant was not there at that time.
My recollection is that both Professor Anant and Professor Bhaskar were there
In the
at this event.
In the CLT event, I am trying to recollect, because somehow it is at the back of my mind. Maybe it is that he was not able to release it as a director. That was the thought at the back of my mind.
Yes.
And at that time, when I was asked to speak, I very clearly said, the first requirement for a coffee table book should be heavy. It should be heavy. It's about 2.5 kgs or something like 2.2 kg, so that no one will pick it up from here. Many people at that time took it, and they really appreciated. Another point about this particular book, I think mentioned, this whole design, the color combination and all, it took me 28 hours overall, over a period of 2-3 weeks. One, I've given his name here, he was in the NPTEL, Mrs. Usha Nagarajan was there. I requested her, can you give me some? This person used to come and his name I've given here. He went on, I went on changing this. I had a certain idea in mind, like, early morning sun, and this is a full morning of the sun comes out. So this is called Arunodayam in Sanskrit, and this is the Suryodayam. So somehow I thought, the rays of sun falling onto, oh dear, you know what it is. But then you see this eye here, so I took it as chimes, so a dot, it is giving out sound vibrations. It can be thought of, or it is the sun giving out sun rays.
Right.
And those rays are from this color, it is gradually changing to this color. So I went on changing, and he said, sir, how long you want to do this? I said, look, Baba, and I was very careful about this A instead of U, campus chimes. And I thought it came off very well. And with Professor Anand, no problem. Whatever we do, he says, great work, Kolar, very nice and all that. He was that. But many others also.
You showed me a pre-printing finalized version, and there really was nothing to change there. It was all perfectly fine.
And before printing, I sent it to Professor Anant. As you said, he said everything is fine, a few here and there. It was the establishment of the Heritage Center, these campus chimes, of course, this book, small book which we bought. I should say, it was very fulfilling for me. I thought I was, in a way giving back to IIT Madras. It has given so much. But it was also stressful. It took quite a bit from me. I didn't mind at that time. There were days when I went without lunch or dinner, had cornflakes in the morning, fruits and milk. It's coming to my office room, continuously. I just wanted to get this done as Professor Anant wanted. Professor Natarajan started the idea of Heritage Center that spilled over into this, of course, the center, and Professor Anant saw to it that everything was done. Professor Bhaskar Ramurthy really released it. So
he's contributed the foreword as well.
He contributed the foreword and all that. You wrote a couple of things. It was a very fulfilling experience for me, and I would like to think even today, and this is one thing which I have, with the help of Professor Natarajan and Professor Anand, a service to the institute, recording.
So what you had been asked to do, to create a museum back in 98,
yes,
that has evolved in a certain direction. So what do you see as the future of the heritage? Because you are on the advisory committee, you are following it closely.
And I want to say both Professor Natarajan and Professor Anant were immensely happy with all these things, as repeatedly they have said. So that's a very nice thing. First of all, let me say here on record, what I am talking about is the version 1 of the Heritage Center, where the displays were all these vertical panels and many other things. We made, by the way, videos also, 12-minute videos, entirely done in-house by Ravi and Kandan help. So any visitors, we used to screen them. So that was there. But maybe a better professional touch could have been there, but Ravi Indranath did a wonderful job. Kandan helped a lot at that time.
What would we talk about? What would happen?
Future. So once Professor Nagaraj, after retirement, Professor Nagaraj took over, professor in charge. You, because of your experience with writing these campus chime books, our ex-IIT and yourself, so I could see similar to me, a passion in you to record all this. And you two have come together. And later we have got Madam Mamta Dash as a project officer. What you have done is completely transformed the version 1 Heritage Center to, in your way, reimagined. That's what you called it. and you have used the latest expertise, technology to revamp, and especially in the same limited area. The area has not been increased. You have kept the essential elements of the earlier time, but added many more in different ways. And this would, already you have seen, would attract the new generation much more into the center. And you have proof of that. A lot of people are coming. You have come up with many publications like this, and also your glass panels. Although I was asking our Mamta, what exactly is the logic behind it. One thing I liked was this IIT Madras Heritage Trail, which I wanted to do it as part of, identify the development, historical development IIT Madras from BSB.
Yes.
I know all this. You have now got a trial of that. I wanted to have a trial and put, markers there and write, even though maybe that could be thought of. You have coming up with activities like, I couldn't imagine at that time. You have made the Heritage Center really a living, Heritage Center. Not, maybe the version was giving a lot of information, maybe in a dry fashion. That's what I'm thinking. Here it's very lively. And this dome idea that you have done, within this space, you have gone into the ceiling of the... I think it is a wonderful execution. And the mini theatre, it's still a mini theatre but fantastic acoustics and a new, you have come up with a professional video, documentary, where earlier I had my own in-house thing with Mr. Ravindranath and Kandan. That was also good. There's a different matter. Information was, and in fact, the background voice for that was one student, Miss Padmanabhan. I remember her name. I trained her for it. Ravi wrote so everything was in-house. So, for various reasons, it is now transformed into a lively center where people would like to go. And recently you started music programs, heritage music programs, and you have many others, I'm sure, ideas too. Periodically you are doing these things, and there is a rotation of all these things. So I think, I'm sure many more things you are planning to do. As we always said, there are two major objectives of a Heritage Center. One, for everybody, including the people who live here, to know what the past is. For our students to know the past. And new students who would like to come with their parents, when they come, if they see this, and they'll be extremely highly impressed, there is no doubt about it. And then visitors, either from India or international visitors, and our own alumni coming with family, you will see when they come how excited they are. So, you said Heritage Center reimagined. I would even say Heritage Center transformed for the better. For the better. I'm sure you will be able to think of some more. I know I'm in the advisory committee as and when possible, but you have already, it is something which is much more than what I visualized at that time, and I was able to do. So, really, compliments to Professor R. Nagarajan, Kumaran, yourself, and our Mamta madam, and the project associates. Finally, that's what I said. Ideas may come from one level to another. Finally, at the root level, I think Sushmita is there, and Bhuvanesh and Manigandan. Now another lady was here.
You are probably referring to Ashlyn Matthew, but now she has moved to a postgraduate course.
Yeah.
But in her place, we have Diya now.
So they are really putting a lot of efforts into this. And also you are starting, the institute is starting archives.
The archives are finally being created. I mean,
Created.
Professor Roland and I had the opportunity to conduct a survey of the documents at IIT back in 2019 or so. And now the entire vision of Professor Natarajan seems to be getting completed. The archival information
especially,
system.
You are right. He used the word archival system. Now you are actually establishing.
Right.
Yes, you are very right. Professor Natarajan would be extremely happy, and of course, Professor Anant would be very happy. That means they were started with good intentions by both the directors who had a vision for this institute, apart from their academic vision. And all of us should take pride. This is the no more arguments about it. The only one of its kind in the IIT system definitely, maybe in the education institutions, I don't know whether they have. We should all be proud. I would like to place my record, place on record my thanks and gratitude to Professor R. Natarajan, Professor Anant, the entire faculty who helped us in this, the engineering unit who made this possible, the people who designed the layout, and finally Professor Nagarajan, Mr. Kumaran, and Mamta and all the staff. I can see in fact, I was telling Mamta, now you have a sense of belonging to the Heritage Center. Yes, sir, So you can go back, that's what I tried to have when I took over this. So from that point of view, like Professor Natarajan and Professor Anant, I am also extremely happy. Because sometimes you can start an institution, it should sustain and improve progress. The functions are being done properly, the students are exposed, outsiders are coming, everybody seems to be extremely happy about visiting. That itself is a big pat on the back to you and all of us, and so that we can take it forward. And during the Madras Day celebrations, August, I had arranged for outsiders to come and visit this center 3-4 times. 2 or 3 faculty who came from other colleges, they said, sir, it's excellent, we want to do it in our college, can you help us out? I said yes, but it has not happened. That itself is a big achievement that you prompt others to do, and this is for the good of the institution, students, visitors, for the future. Once I said, I think to Professor Ramachandran, sir, 50 years is too short a period. He said, no. He said, it's a very crucial period. If you record this properly, the other things can happen. But how an institution started, that is what you have recorded.
Right.
Heritage doesn't mean, hundreds of years. In the last 50 years, that itself is the important thing. Now it is recorded, history. It's history, authentic. Future people, so you have done a good job, something to that effect is very happy about it. So, thank you very much for inviting me here and giving me this opportunity. I wanted to say these things many times and we had planned it earlier, but finally it has worked out today. And this itself will become part of heritage, the interview itself, so that people in the future know how it was done. Maybe still some things are remaining, but some other time we can discuss. But this has been a very fruitful, enjoyable and fulfilling discussion with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Kolar, for participating in the oral history program and for sharing your reminiscences of the creation of the Heritage Center.
Thank you very much. Thank you.